Okay, thank everyone for coming today to our reviewer webinar for the 100K CLIMA Colombia grant competition. My name is Mariana Cabrera Figueroa. I am the program officer for the 100,000 Strong in the Americas Innovation Fund at Partners of the Americas. So we have a brief agenda of what we're going to go over today, which will be a quick overview of the 100K Innovation Fund for any reviewers that are new to the 100K Innovation Fund and for new to reviewing our proposals for our competitions. Then we'll cover how to be an effective reviewer overall, just like a quick few steps on what to do as a reviewer. Then we'll go over the 100K CLIMA Colombia evaluation criteria. And then we'll cover these last three steps all together, which will be actually creating and signing into your reviewer account, navigating the review portal, and accessing and completing your assigned proposals. And if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to send a question in the Q&A box. Okay, so we'll start with a quick overview of the 100,000 Strong in the Americas Innovation Fund. So just some background on who we are. The 100K Innovation Fund is a public-private sector partnership and collaboration among the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs at the Department of State, the U.S. embassies, and Partners of the Americas, working with companies, foundations, regional government entities, and academic networks throughout the United States, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And the goals of the 100K Innovation Fund do align with DOS priorities to build institutional capacity, increase access to inclusive educational opportunities, stimulate economic prosperity, and contribute to workforce development. So it's just kind of a quick synopsis of the 100K Innovation Fund, who we work with, what our network looks like. And we've been around for 10 plus years already. Some highlights throughout those 10 years are 321 grants awarded to teams of 585 higher education institutions, and that is 35 competitions in 26 countries and 49 US states. We've benefited over 10,000 students and counting, and received over 1,200 grant proposals since 2014, which was our first competition. In our innovation network, we do have over 2,300 higher education institutions, and we have received over $20 million from public and private sectors to support the Innovation Fund and its grant competitions since 2013. So now that you know just a little bit about the Innovation Fund, what we are, I mean, I hope you already know a little bit about it, since everyone who's here came from the reviewer application itself. But that's a quick overview of the Innovation Fund, our grant competitions, where the proposals are coming from. So some quick steps to being an effective 100K proposal reviewer. First are to read the competition request for proposals. So the RFP has the full information on specific eligibility requirements, academic areas, etc. for each competition. And so everything that we cover on eligibility, on countries, on competitions, and even on 100K, the 100K Innovation Fund, will actually be in the competition RFP. And we do have it in English and in Spanish for this competition, but all of the proposals will be written in English. Step 2, after reading the competition RFP, will be to make sure that you log into your reviewer portal and become familiar with the portal, since this is where you will receive your assignments. And don't worry, we'll get familiar with the reviewer portal near the end of this webinar. Step 3 is to review past and current 100K reviewer materials. So those will be available to you on the 100K reviewer portal. And by past and current, we mean the reviewer materials that are already there. And also this new reviewer webinar will also be placed on there. And we don't usually have reviewer webinars, just for recent competitions that have been a little more tricky. We want to make sure that reviewers have a refresh of the process and also of this specific competition. And then step 4 is to complete each reviewer form for each proposal that you've been assigned. And you will have access to those on the first day of phase 1. If you're doing phase 1, if you just signed up for phase 2, then that's when you'll be assigned them. Please just make sure to read each assigned proposal as well as the reviewer form questions very carefully to ensure an in-depth and fair score. And if possible, leave any comments that you can to justify your scores. Why did you give this institution a lower score? Why did you think it deserved the highest score, etc. Okay, so now we'll go into the 100K CLIMA Colombia competition specifically, and some evaluation criteria. So for this competition, eligible countries were the US and Colombia, and each proposal must include at least one higher education institution located and legally registered in the United States, and one higher education institution located and legally registered in Colombia. Beyond that, teams can have more than 2 higher education institutions. They can have, for example, 3 or 4 or 5, as long as they meet the minimum qualifications. And if any proposal didn't meet these qualifications, then it's not something you need to worry about as much, because the 100K Innovation Fund will actually do a quick technical eligibility review before assigning you any proposals, meaning there shouldn't be any proposals that don't have partners or that aren't eligible. But just in case one or two slips by, then just know that these proposals, they cannot be or outside organizations, nonprofits, NGOs, any of those. Those can be considered secondary partners in addition to the higher education institutions, but they cannot be the minimum HEIs. And they don't count as HEIs. Okay, so in this competition, there are 2 proposal options. So we'll go over the first option, which is 11 grants that will be available to proposals focused on only innovative, inclusive student and faculty exchanges. And this option is open to all Colombian departments, but preferred departments include these departments here. So that means that it would be nice to take note if you see that the proposal is in one of these departments, but it is not a requirement. And I would like to note that I did say only innovative, inclusive student and faculty exchanges, because our second option is focused on exchanges and a project. But we'll get into that one. This one is 11 grants that will go to programs focused on just the exchange portion of the programs. Eligible thematic areas for these exchange programs are agriculture, climate technology, conservation and reforestation, renewable energy, design, architecture, and construction of climate resilient infrastructure, and decarbonization and electrification. So these are the eligible thematic areas. If you'd like to check to see if there are any, sometimes we do write some sub-themes under these themes, these parent themes. They are written in the request for proposals, but this is kind of the main gist of it. And as a note, 3 of these grants will be allocated to programs focused on the development and management of cacao and complementary crops. So this is not something that you as a proposal reviewer will have to do, but just letting you know that that is something else that we are looking for, is any of these areas plus and I guess and or also the development and management of cacao and complementary crops. This does not mean that competitions that don't have any focus on cacao and complementary crops are not eligible. It just means that it's an additional focus that we're looking into. It's not a requirement. Okay, so proposal option number 2 is 5 grants that will be available to proposals that include climate action research connected to climate action projects and faculty and student exchange and training programs. So proposal option number 2 does have two factors, which is the climate action projects and the student and faculty exchange programs. And for proposal option number 2, it is open to all Colombian departments, but projects that are or include at least one institution based in the Caribbean region of Colombia are preferred Colombian departments. This is by no means a requirement, but it is just a preferred region, like we noted. And again, these are the eligible thematic areas here, but I would again suggest to have the request for proposals open and read through it to make sure that you understand which themes go under which proposal option. And again, 2 to 3 of these grants will be allocated to programs focused on the development and sustainable management of cacao and complementary crops. And these are the crops here. So, overview of what the options look like. So, option number 1, we said, was 11 grants. And these grants are up to $27,174 US dollars. And those only include the student and faculty exchange programs. Option number 2 is 5 grants worth up to 50,000 US dollars for the teams that are focused on the climate action project and also the student and faculty exchanges. So that's why option number 2 is a slightly larger amount. Option number 1 has more grants, but a slightly smaller amount. So this is just to get you familiarized with what kind of options the grantees had in this competition. They did have to select an option when they submit their proposal. And so you will see which option they are applying to when you are reviewing the proposals. It will say option number 1, and then in parentheses, 11 grants of up to $27,174. So that it'll be a little more clear. And so we do suggest that you have the request for proposals open when you are reviewing these proposals, because it is a little more tricky of a competition because there are 2 different options here that applicants can choose. Oops. Okay, so going into the evaluation criteria in general. So in general, proposals will include a technical narrative, which will be 80% of the evaluation criteria, which includes the cover page, a table of contents, the executive summary and program description, the sustainability plan, the capacity challenges and opportunities section, and the monitoring and evaluation plan. So each of those 4 subsections counts for a specific amount of the overall score. As you can see, the executive summary and program description is the largest amount because that's really where we ask a lot of questions, and you'll see in the next few pages what the questions look like on the review form. But for example, we'll ask here, or this is at least where HEIs will put information like how many students are traveling, where they're traveling to, if it's possible to have travel in both directions, why the program is needed, and just a general overview of the program itself. And then the sustainability plan follows. It's 15%. The capacity challenges and opportunities section is 10%. The monitoring and evaluation plan is 15%. And we'll go more into what each one asks in the next few slides. So for the technical narrative, we do ask that it be 15 pages maximum. If you are reviewing a proposal and you see that it's more than 15 pages, I think it is something to note if it's much more than 15 pages. If it's 16, I don't know that it's that huge of a deal, but if you're reading a technical narrative and it's at 25, 30 pages, I think that is something to note in the comments of your score. The next section is that they will be submitting a budget, which will be 20% of their score. And this will include the budget summary table, which will be an Excel sheet outlining the expenses and a descriptive budget narrative. And the budget narrative will explain what's going on basically in the budget summary table and how they came to their conclusions. And lastly, we ask that you take into consideration low indirect costs. The lower, the better. I mean, we do recommend no more than 20% of grant funds go to indirect costs. The budget itself should be no more than 5 pages. Usually we don't even need 5 pages, but that is the maximum. And then lastly, HEIs will be required to submit some supporting documents, such as the letters of support, which should be from all involved institutions in the program. So from the primary institution and from all the partner institutions, and even any community partners such as nonprofits that they might be working with, we do require letters of support. And there is no template for the letter of support, but just something to show that they are committed to the program if selected for a grant fund or for a grant. And then we also require the biography or resume of the project team. So that will be of all the main project team members. And we ask that the biographies or resumes be no more than 2 pages per person. I think this is one of the page limits that is not as big of a deal. You can note in the comments how if an institution goes over 2 pages for the biographies, but it is just a supporting document, so it shouldn't count as too much of the evaluation. And then we do have a section for them to submit any additional materials if they feel that they need a little bit more space to explain some aspect of their program, then they'll submit additional materials under that section. And so here you can just see a small graphic of what the evaluation will look like, pie chart. Okay, so going into each specific section. For the executive summary and program description, as I already mentioned, it's 40% of the score, the overall score, and this will be hopefully a clear, concise, and specific narrative about the project design, goals, objectives, and student activities. And in this section, we ask for the executive summary, the need for the program, for them to explain their program goals, their objectives, and their key activities. And this should include some mention of the student learning objectives as well, and the student diversity plan, although some institutions do submit their student diversity plan in the supporting documents, which is also fine. It should include also detailed activities of the students, how many students will travel in either or both directions, if they will receive credit for their participation, and what are some innovations or new components of this specific program that's applying for the funding. And we do ask institutions that they don't leave any questions for reviewers. So this should be the most detailed portion of the entire proposal. If you do have any questions, then that's important to note in the comments. Okay, so the next session will be the sustainability plan, which is 15%. And this is sort of a plan for us to see how the institutions plan to continue after their initial year of the 100K funding. So they should be writing what concrete plans or actions they have to ensure the continuation of the program, if they have any institutional buy-in or support for the program, if they've already identified any local, national, or international funding sources that they'll apply to, or if they know where they will be looking. It doesn't need to be a specific plan, but it can also just be next steps. What are some next steps after our program is complete, we're not just going to, program's done, no more funding, that's it. Hopefully there's some sort of idea on how can we continue this, how can we continue to benefit students. Even if I don't know right now what funding I'll get, I can write in this section. I will be looking and reaching out to other faculty to see if they know of any funding opportunities, or I'll be checking large funders like Google, etc. So it should just be some sort of plan or action. And in this section, that's where the letters of support are required from the primary institution and from the partner institutions. For the capacity, challenges, and opportunities for growth section, this is 10%. And it should just discuss the pretty self-explanatory, the capacity of each institution to administer research, exchange programs, and climate action related projects. What are some challenges that prevent students from going abroad institutionally, academically, socially? And what are some opportunities provided by this grant for growth at all institutions or the primary institution, and how will that help you overcome the challenges of student mobility? And this is the section where we require the biographies and resumes of the project team. And that should be from each institution involved. So it shouldn't just be the resume from the primary team, but it should also be from the partners team. Okay, the monitoring and evaluation plan. So that's 15% of the score. Oops, and I guess I accidentally wrote there the same thing as the last slide, but this is the monitoring and evaluation plan. Just self-explanatory, as the title says. We want to see what the HCI is going to measure, and that can be in quantified target goals, benchmarks, indicators of progress, etc. We'd like to see how they're going to measure program progress and these specific indicators, what kinds of tools and technology they're going to use, when and how often will they collect this data? Will it be baseline? Will it be throughout the exchange? Will it be after the exchange and after the climate action project? What's the timeline for this information? And who will be responsible for collecting the data? Will it be the project director, the principal investigator, a separate department? In addition to just knowing what data you're monitoring and collecting, we want to know who will also be collecting this data. And we do have an M&E template on our website for applicants to use. So hopefully they did use that so that they can have a clear monitoring and evaluation plan. If they didn't use a template, it's really not that big of a deal, but if we want to make sure that this section is also clear. So if it's not clear, if it's confusing, then please note that in your comments and in your score. Okay, and then budget, which will be 20% of the score. So like I just said, clarity is something that is very important in all of the proposals, not just for us to understand what's going on, but also to see that the institutions have a plan and that they're going to stick to this plan. So for the budget, clarity is very important because we want to see all calculations are clear. They're especially in calculations that are going also in the narrative, that they're correct, and that they add up to the final amount that they're requesting. We do ask that you consider indirect or administrative costs, as we said. The recommendation, as I said before, is no more than 20% of the grant, but HEIs can definitely choose to cost share some of the indirect or administrative costs, and that can be larger than 20%. The lower the indirect costs, the better, but it is only also 5% of the budget score. And the next item is cost share, which are in-kind or cost contributions from all partnering institutions and or external resources. So that can be cash, or it can be donated time, donated materials, donated workspace, equipment, etc. And cost share can count from all partnering institutions. And we do recommend it is required, but there is no minimum amount of cost share that's required. But it is recommended that the team as a whole match the grant 1-to-1. So if they're asking for the $50,000 US dollar grant, then we'd like to see a match of similar to that amount from all institutions. So it can be the primary institution can give 30,000, the secondary can give 20,000. If they have more partners, they can, split it up in between them as they like. Like I said, it's not required, but it is so that we can see that the institutions have some sort of capacity beyond this 100K grant to maintain at least some portion of the programs to benefit students and local communities after receiving the 100K funds. So if for some reason they aren't able to secure outside grants for these programs, then maybe at least, they'll be able to continue maybe just the virtual programs or any other part of the program at least. And we do say external resources also count as cost share because HEIs can also apply if they'd like for other grants from governments, from other private institutions. And if they do get those grants, then that can count as their cost share, and it's no problem at all. And I do have a note here that expenses covered by students out of pocket don't count as cost share. And then lastly, for budget, we have the narrative, which is also 5%, as every other section is, that HEIs just need to explain and justify each item or activity that they are writing in the budget summary. And they need to provide breakdown of cost estimates. How were the costs calculated? And why did you use these numbers? If you're estimating for flights, for example, for students, are you looking at the flights in the future? Are you looking at flights next week to these locations? Right, where is your estimate coming from? So those four sections are things that we ask that you consider in the budget score overall. Okay, and then we'll go over your review portal and steps to completing your assigned proposals. And here you'll see where we're going to ask these specific questions and more in your actual review portal. So you don't need to have this PowerPoint open or anything while you're reviewing the proposals. You will have questions on the reviewer form to guide you. So let's go into creating your profile. So once you receive I think actually in the email that I sent to all of the potential reviewers, there should be the link to create your profile for the review portal. Once you receive this link, or you can also send us an email if you haven't received the link, then you need to enter your email address, which is the same email address that you used in your reviewer application. confirm your email address, it'll send you a confirmation, and create a password. So once you create your password and you create your profile, you'll have access to your assignments. And when you do sign in, you'll see all of your assigned proposals in the area highlighted in red right here. And as you can see, it says one listing in total. It says State University of New York at Fredonia, and then it says test. And this will be one of the many proposals assigned to you. Usually it'll be between 7 and 10 proposals assigned to you. And you'll click review to review that specific proposal. And here on the right, you see thorough instructions about how to begin the proposal review process. So you can see it says click on the form attachments for the dropdown, etc. So that will always be there. So like I said, you don't need to come back to this PowerPoint, but it's just this PowerPoint is before you actually have access to your proposals, so you can begin to prepare for what it will be like. And also just a small note here is that proposals are randomly assigned to you. Okay, so reviewing the proposals. After you click on that review button, you can click switch to PDF view, or you can remain in interactive view. So this is the interactive view. And if you want to switch to PDF, it says right here, you can switch to PDF and it will bring it up separately. And you'll also be able to see the name of the applicant HEI in the top bar here, so you don't forget which institution you're reviewing. We do also recommend that you take notes if you'd like separately in a different document, either in a journal, in a notebook, in a Word document, because if you are interested in attending the final selection meeting, we will ask for reviewers' comments. And so besides, you will have access to your proposal still and your comments, and you can download them. But just if you are interested in that, then we do recommend you just have maybe some sort of log of your notes. So here you'll be able to distinguish which HEI proposal you're looking at. Okay, and then from here, you'll click review again, and you'll be able to begin actually reviewing this application. Now that you've entered the review form, you'll see it on your right side. There are questions, comments here. And this is where you'll input your scores, feedbacks, comments for each proposal. And like I said, there are detailed instructions on criteria and metrics on this side. As you can see, there's a scoring legend. 0 to 2 is poor, 3 to 4 is needs improvement, 5 to 6 is fair, 7 to 8 is good, 9 to 10 is excellent, etc. And this will be the same form that will show up for each of your proposals. So the form will not change, just the proposal on the left-hand side. I guess I switched sides. For some reason, I wrote on the right-hand side. So on the left-hand side is the proposal content / the application form for you to review. And you can scroll, as you can see, either, like independently of each other on the left side and on the right side. Okay, submitting the review form. Once you actually complete your review, as you can see here on the right side, we're all the way at the bottom. We're here at cost proposal score, overall score, and would you recommend this proposal for funding, and then other considerations and comments. Okay, so once you've completed your review and scoring of each section, the total scores will be automatically calculated and displayed for your final review. You may continue working on the review later if you'd like by clicking Save Draft here at the bottom. When you are done completely with the review of that application, you can click Submit. And the Save Draft is there because we know that everyone who applies to be a reviewer has other commitments and has specific times that they're more free at. or times they work better at. So that's why we do give you multiple days. I believe it's around 10 days to complete all of your reviews. And if in the middle of completing a review, you have to go somewhere, no problem, you can just save the draft, and you can come back to it. Okay, and then once you do submit, these are submitted assignments. Once you do submit and complete each review, when you return to your listing page, right here where we were at the beginning, you'll see the reviews that you have completed here still, but you see this button used to say review and it was blue, and now it says done and it's green. So that's how you know that you submitted that review, and also that if you have any more to do, you'll see the incompleted reviews, and if you're already done, then you'll see all of them should be green. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the process of reviewing these proposals. If you have any more specific questions, please feel free to send us an email at 100kstrongamericas@partners.net. Like I said, this was just a quick overview of the specific competition, what the eligibility requirements are, what the evaluation criteria looks like, and kind of the whole process for 100K proposal reviewers. And as I said before, we do have more information on the review portal. So once you log in and sign up, you'll have access to those materials. And we do still have the past reviewer webinar that was on there. It's still on there. So if there's any information that maybe you missed today and you need immediately before I can download this recording and before we can put this on the page, that past one will stay up there, and that presentation will still stay up there. And so you should have all the materials to complete your proposals now. Like I said, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send us an email, submit a question. If you have a question right now, also, I have time for Q&A. And if you have specific questions about what we're going to ask you on the review forms, then I probably won't be able to answer the specific questions, but you will have, like I said, the review form there on the side of each proposal that you're looking at that will be asking you questions. So the review form will be guiding you on what is a good score, and what we're looking for in each section. So it'll ask, for example, did this section highlight institutional capacity of both partners? And as a reviewer, you can reread that section and think to yourself, did it, yes or no, and how well, right? And then you'll look at the agenda that's on there, and you'll give it a score based on that. Okay. Oh yeah, Sally did ask, did you want us to confirm in some way if we do want to review? Thank you, Sally, for the question. No, just contact us if you don't want to review, if you realize that you don't have the time, if you're you just can't review anymore, then please go ahead and contact us. Everyone who was sent that email has been preliminarily chosen to act as a reviewer, and usually we don't even send emails saying you've been selected for a reviewer until the first day of phase 1. But this time we wanted to invite you to the reviewer webinar before you knew that you actually were selected, just in case. So everybody who we did email, we have under yes, I want to participate for this specific competition. Yeah. Do we have any other questions? If not, we can just end early and I'm sure you all have a lot of things to do. You have day jobs. Okay, and as I said before, we usually don't let you know that you've actually been selected for phase one until the day of, so that people don't have access to the proposals beforehand or anything like that. But we will be selecting the final reviewers who will be acting and for which specific proposals this week, and you will be notified if you've been selected to be a proposal reviewer for the 100K CLIMA Colombia competition. And by, I believe it should be, and by next week, by Monday. And that will be day one of phase one of the reviews. You'll also be notified if you haven't been selected. Okay. Thank you everyone very much for coming to this webinar today and for taking the time to learn a little bit more about the process. Like I said, we'll get this recording and this presentation up on the reviewer portal as soon as possible so that you can log in and access the materials before even starting the proposals. So for now, my only recommendation is maybe get that request for proposals downloaded so you can already just have access to it and maybe spend a little bit of time reading it before maybe this weekend before phase one begins. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful Tuesday.